Okay, so we're going to get started. First, want to thank you all for your service this year at the Barkley Forum for High School Students tournament. We are looking forward to a great year back on campus. It's been 2 years, so your attendance is greatly appreciated. And so I'm going to hand it over to Adam, who will be leading us tonight in the judges training.
Thank you, Lydia. First of all, I am super excited to make it back to the beautiful city of Atlanta and all of the amazing people at the Barkley Forum for High Schools. Emory University's Barkley Forum is just such an amazing organization on their campus that does a number of rich outreach efforts in the greater Atlanta community, and in particular for PK-12 schools. And it is an institution that is amazing to be a part of. And it's such a privilege for me as an educator and as an activities administrator to be part of this group and to have the privilege of working with Lydia, who marshals such an amazing team of staff that assists with the tournament. So I have done a lot of Congress tournaments over the years. So I've drawn on that experience to share this brief presentation with you tonight. I'm not going to read all of these slides to you word for word, but I will share a copy, a link to a copy of the slide deck with you so that you can consult it and click some of the links that are in the slide. Even better. Thank you, Lydia. That makes it easy. So let's see here. I'll start the slideshow there. Share screen, and we'll do desktop 1 and go. And you should see the title slide entitled Judging Congressional Debate. And I tried to use Emory's beautiful color scheme best as I could here. So first of all, I'm going to share our text hotline number. This is a great way for you when you're judging. If you have a quick question or concern and want to let us know in the least obtrusive way possible during the round, this will be a great way to reach Lydia and the rest of our team. So myself included as well. Tabroom.com is really kind of your command center, your dashboard for all the judging you're going to do. We actually had been using Tabroom for, I think, about 2 years, Lydia, solidly to do electronic or e-ballots during the tournament. So this shouldn't come as a surprise. And if you were with us the 2 years we were virtual, it was really the only way that we were all connected together. But I cannot overestimate the importance of clicking start round as soon as you get your assignment. In many cases, you will get a text message from Tabroom on your phone, and I'll actually show you what one of those looks like. Here we go. And it'll say something like Tabroom section you're judging. It'll have your name and the names of a bunch of contestants, what the official start time of the round is. For anyone who's chosen to share their pronouns, if they have particular pronouns they prefer to be referred as, that is also in the text. So just kind of a handy point of reference for who to expect in the round. So clicking start round doesn't necessarily mean you're actually starting the round in the room. It really means it's an acknowledgement that you understand that we've asked you to take that assignment and that you're going to be on your way to that room. But it's just a great way to let us know you're good, you're going to be there, everything's good to go. If we don't hear from you within about 10 minutes or so, we're going to start reassigning ballots once we have confirmed that we're missing somebody in that room about 10 minutes prior to the start time. So help us out so that we don't have to use standbys, because we want to rotate judging assignments as much as we possibly can. This goes without saying, but we really do appreciate if you write your comments, or I should say type your comments in Tabroom while the students are speaking. So each speech gets its own little space, and I have some lovely screenshots for you so you'll be able to conceptualize that more. Each hour presiding, and there's 3 hours per round, counts as a speech for presiding officers. It's important to note that in Tabroom, we will leave the ability for you to edit or add comments to any of the students' speeches until the end of the tournament. So if you want to go back and elaborate on things, use your own little shorthand earlier and then go fix it later, you can do that, but don't wait until too much time has passed, because our memories tend to fade the longer or the more time passes in between those things. But what's really important is we want you to put a score for each speech and at least some comments as a frame of reference, but try and keep things moving as much as possible. At the very end of the round, the scorers, who typically sit in the back of the room, will comparatively rank the top 8 performing students in that room, and then don't rank anyone else. The system will automatically record them as 9s or unranked. The parliamentarian at the end of prelims and each elim round will comparatively rank all of the contestants in the room, no ties, all the way through the total number of contestants. Again, please do not write by hand unless your device just stops working and you have no alternative. But even so, if you have a backup like a tablet, or I've even seen people do it on their phone, that helps. But if there's no other recourse, just send us a text and let us know you're having an issue. And then if you absolutely have to, write things out. But at least then we know that to touch base with you. We'll remind you at that point, when you take notes, please note the student's name, the topic they're debating, the side, and a score for each of those speeches as you go. Okay. The other thing is, if your device is fine and Tabroom has a lag, you can open a Word doc and do the same thing and type that so you can just copy paste later. There's a new feature, and the Barkley Forum for High Schools will be one of the first tournaments to use it, and that's integrated seating charts in your judging dashboard. So not only will you have a tab for scoring each of the speeches, a tab for ranking at the very end of the round, you'll also have a tab for seating charts, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. There's also a drop-down menu. The screen is fairly blank when you start. The drop-down menu allows you to find a student. You can literally start typing part of their name, and it will limit to any matches with the string of characters that you've typed. So that's really a quick way of getting to the student that you're looking for. So here's what the seating chart looks like. Tabroom is smart. It automatically knows if you've been assigned a scorer and you'd be sitting in the back of the room, it's going to give you that seating chart as you look at it. The front of the room is the furthest away from you. The back of the room is where you are, and it will show you the students in terms of where they're seating from that position. So this will be incredibly efficient for everyone. One of the problems with seating charts at tournaments is we're constantly regenerating them and printing them and collating them. And it was a lot of moving of paper and trying to get things to people when there were changes in judges and somebody walked away with a folder, then we'd have to print new seating charts. So this will give it to you instantaneously, so you have a frame of reference for who is where. Conversely, if you're the parliamentarian and you're in the front of the room, you'll see the reverse appearance. So the front of the room is obviously where you are, closest to you, and furthest back or up on the screen is the back of the room where the scorers will be sitting. So that's really handy as well. We will provide one printed seating chart in the same configuration as the parliamentarian for the student presiding officer in paper form. We're not quite there yet for Tabroom access for student POs during the round, but that is kind of a wish list item. And in fact, even an interactive one where they can click little boxes and keep track of speeches and questions as the round goes. So fully going paperless and electronic, but we're not there yet. All right, so when the round starts, one of the first things that will happen is the PO will be elected. The parliamentarian will facilitate that. The scorers, as soon as that person has been named, you can find the student's name in that drop-down list and then click the toggle to designate them as presiding officer. What that does is it removes at the top of the screen a place for speech, topic, and side, and instead puts a header presiding officership. And you have to put at least some comments and a score in. What I'll often do is just put placeholder for PO comments, but I try and start judging right away. If I listen to the candidacy speech and I want to comment on that, just to kind of give them feedback on how that could be better, I'll type comments about that. When they give their opening procedure spiel, if you will, I'll comment on, you know, how clear I think the PO is being about those kinds of things, because those are really tangible things that you can give them feedback on. You can always come back for a speech that you've given comments and even a score to earlier, or a presiding officership, and adjust the score, edit or change your comments at any time, and just click save, and that will fix it. One of the other things Tabroom fixed fairly recently is there's a little trash can for you to delete. So if you're clumsy like me and accidentally clicked an extra speech for a particular student, but they didn't give that speech, you now can delete it, and that little delete button will be on the same row as where the save button is once it's been saved and is registered. So that's been a real boon. For speaking, you just pull that toggle down. Once you type a topic area for a bill, let's say we're debating electric automobiles, you can just type automobiles or electric or some kind of shorthand, so the kid has a frame of reference for which speech you're commenting on, and then say if they're for or against, and that's also for a frame of reference. And then you can type your speeches, click save speech. Once you finish that speech and you move on to a different student, it will actually carry forward that topic to the next student, because you just keep debating the same topic until you vote and then move on to something else. And so that's a real nice time saver that Tabroom does. At the end of the round, you'll get the summary rank screen that you will not be able to access unless you've given a presiding officer the score. It's kind of a fail-safe in Tabroom to force you to score the presiding officer. This trips up a lot of judges, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned it because it's in there as kind of a safeguard. So if you don't get this rank screen, which is a summary table of points and the inputs for you to put the ranks in, chances are you forgot to give the presiding officer a score. So go and look for their name, make sure there's a score, and then come back here. And then you can actually sort the columns by average, which is probably the best thing, or by points, and it'll kind of sort by total points. There's something I want to talk about here, because I just got an email today from a coach about another tournament I'm running next month. And they mentioned how students who gave fewer speeches automatically were ranked lower by a lot of the judges in the room. And I'm here to tell you that there can be a number of experiences why a student may not have the opportunity to speak as much as other students, namely the presiding officer and when they're called on. And we've tried to put different structures in place, and I'll highlight one of those in a moment to try and mitigate that. But, you know, just kind of keep an eye in the room. Now, if a student is not taking the initiative to stand and seek recognition to speak, and is not being active, not asking questions, not involved in the debate, that's different. If they give one speech and check out, okay. But if they seem like they're asking questions and still staying active, please take that into consideration. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be ranked among the top students in the room. The other thing we want you to bear in mind is if the presiding officer's performance was worthy, they also should be considered within your top 8 ranking if you're a scorer, because their contributions to that round are just as important. And the way I always think of it is when I'm judging a round, I'll kind of look at who the top debaters are, you know, and if there's some real high quality debaters toward the top, you know, and it kind of emerges that there's like 3 or 4 really strong debaters, a lot of times I'll then put in the PO, and then, you know, the next group of talented debaters, you know, if there's kind of a gap point there, right? You know, there's a few that are in really good contention, and then there's a few that are strong but not as high quality in their debating. That's another way to look at it. If I'm just really put off by the quality of debating in the round in general, and I feel like the students were ill prepared, were playing games, were being mean-spirited, and if it seems like the presiding officer is above that and trying to keep order and working really hard against very difficult odds, sometimes I'll rank the presiding officer top of the group. And sometimes when a presiding officer just does not seem very organized, there are a lot of questions about how they're recognizing speakers. If I note in my mind that the presiding officer has called on all male presenting speakers before they recognize female presenting speakers, I'll take some of those things into account. Now, we will have preset recency at this tournament, so that is not as much an issue as it was when POs have to choose randomly. But you can kind of take those factors into account because it's a holistic behavioral analysis of how they're presenting their leadership skills in that particular round. When you're done, you get a confirmation screen, and it will present you with the order that you've ranked. And if you feel comfortable with that, click the green button for go, and you're done. But you can still go back into the ballot to change comments. You just cannot change any individual speech scores at that point, and you cannot change your rank order. If you realize you made a mistake, that's when you click the red button and it takes you back to the previous screen to enter your ranks. And then there's what the edit feedback blue button looks like after you've confirmed your ballot for you to go in and edit that feedback. The parliamentarian screen looks a little bit different than the scorers. They have what's called general feedback, quite literally as the header there says. And there's just one comment box per student. So it's just kind of a running comment box. And if you want to give per speech comments, you can just type a little title of the speech and then comment and then kind of hit return or enter to move on to the next comment, when their speech comes back up again. So there's some judging tools accessible online, and if you have the link, and we'll copy that link and share it again in the chat for those who came later, you can click these. But we have a number of resources on congressionaldebate.org on the judging page, and I'll just show you quick little screenshots in a minute. BFHS, for Barkley Forum for High Schools, .tabroom.com will take you to the Tabroom page where you can find legislation for the tournament. And then bit.ly is a web shortener. BFHS CD rules will take you to our rules document. So let me just quickly give an overview of each of these resources. So congressionaldebate.org has a couple of instructional videos that will orient you on judging. There's a purple judging guide, which is kind of an all-purpose judging guide that we've curated over the years, and then specific instructions on the blue sheet for tabroom.com, which are very similar to what this presentation is doing. Lower on that page is a section for parliamentarians. There's a whole parliamentarian guide, a table of motions. Judges may find this useful too in terms of just cross-referencing rulings of the presiding officer. Straw poll for elections was mostly done for virtual tournaments, but I have been at an in-person tournament this year where all the students had laptops in the room, and the parliamentarian invited them to do an online vote, and it worked really quickly. So there's no reason why we can't pull some of the tools that we used in virtual tournaments into our in-person world. There's even virtual amendment forms that can be shared with students. Just tell them, go to this, and then share it to that email address so the PO can read it to the room. All of that kind of stuff is available on the bottom of that page. There's where the CD or Congressional Debate legislation docket is on bfhs.tabroom.com. That's what the docket looks like, so you can confirm that you have. This is just a great resource for judges to have to kind of cross-reference a particular bill or resolution as it's being debated, as the students bring it up and introduce it to the room. This is what the rules document looks like. That's that bit.ly link that I shared earlier. This will be particularly valuable for parliamentarians if a tournament rule issue arises. And then just a couple of other judging considerations that I'll go over pretty quickly. There's no need as judges for you to ask students to spell their name. That takes up a lot of time. They'll have a paper placard And you'll also have the seating chart to reference. Don't worry about giving paradigms or preferences. The problem with congressional debate, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, it is not a head-to-head debate event. There are not two conflicting entries and a win determining who moves on to the next round. So it operates more like speech events in terms of the comparative ranking and how we section the rooms, even though it intellectually functions as a debate event. So given that there are so many variables in place and so many students being ranked, that paradigms actually have no impact on how students perform during the round. Good debaters should do what's on that purple document on congressionaldebate.org's judging page, where they're just holistically logical and argumentative in the formula for argument, in terms of having a good claim, having good evidence or data to back up that claim, warranting and linking how that all connects together and showing what that impact ultimately is, weighing impacts, refuting, all of those things that make good argumentation, and speaking well. And there are so many elements being considered all at one time, as well as how the student is contributing to the overall livelihood of the debate. Are they making motions that are helping move the session along in a productive way? Or are they blocking other people in a mean-spirited way? Are they asking really insightful, probing questions of their peers? Or are they engaging in overly aggressive and impolite questioning behavior? Which is not to say that students can't stand their ground if somebody else is trying to dominate a questioning or answering dynamic, but there's a fine line in doing that in a respectful way. And there's all kinds of different dynamics too, and this is something that as a male presenting person I'm always cognizant of, is how are male presenting debaters talking to female presenting debaters, and are they talking down to them? And there are a lot of those microaggressions that happen, and we need to be mindful of that. So I really do try and think of all of those things, and it's very difficult for anybody. If I gave a paradigm like that just took me 5 minutes to explain, that's all this time that's evaporated that could have been used for debate. And we should be coaching all of our students to be doing all of those things at all times anyway. We do have the final appeal pilot here. I believe this is the 4th year in a row we're doing it, and we're still kind of gathering feedback on that for the NSDA. But just know that it's in the rules. It's here. It basically means that once everyone has had an opportunity to debate on a bill or resolution and nobody else seeks recognition, that automatically moves the previous question, and then the sponsor or author who began debate on that by introducing that bill to the floor gets to give a 90-second speech. There's no questions asked after it. It is scored as a separate speech worth up to 6 points, but it does not count against precedence or recency for that student. A few other things: we will be using tournament provided preset recency, which is now an official rule of the NSDA. We'll be using direct questioning in all rounds, which is also an official rule of NSDA. There is no requirement for a particular number of speeches on the same side. Sometimes we hear about cycles and such things, and some individual regional leagues, like I think the CFL and Florida, maybe a few other places, have a very specific rule that prohibits so many speeches on the same side of a bill or resolution. We, nor NSDA, have an official rule about that. And sometimes there are nuanced arguments to build upon without engaging in rehash or repetitive arguments. But that said, as the judge, it is your prerogative and indeed important to call a kid out when they're simply repeating or rehashing what somebody else has said. And Tony, I see your question. Recency is simply a numerical order assigned to all of the students in the room that determines when they stand for recognition, whichever student has the lower number is called upon. And really, the only people in the room who have to understand how that works are the students, because they will call one another out if somebody's abusing that. and the adult parliamentarian judge, who is the experienced judge that will be put in the front of the room. So thank you for asking that question contextually, because it was just easy to quickly answer that. So yeah, okay, next slide. We ask that a chamber take no more than 2 5-minute recesses or 1 10-minute recess per session or round. And that's just to ensure that the emphasis is placed on debate. That includes in-session recesses. It's still a recess. And what's really funny is I was just judging 2 weekends ago at the Minnesota State Tournament, and I happened to be the parliamentarian, and a student moved for a quick in-session recess when nobody had a speech to give on a particular bill. And somebody raised a point of order and said, we can't do that. And they all looked at me and I said, they are correct. We cannot do that. And then a student sought recognition and gave a speech. I'm like, they were just going to waste everybody's time and take a recess. And here somebody stood up anyway. I think they were just being shy, and sometimes they just need some encouragement. So, you know, and to be reminded what the rules are. And I already said that, so I'm not going to repeat it. Recesses also are a great time for you as judges to get up, take a restroom break, get a drink of water or something, stay hydrated, because that's important. All right, some golden rules. When in doubt, ask. You may text, and that's for everybody. For parliamentarians, do not adjourn the round if all speakers have not had an equal opportunity to speak, unless you consult tab first. So that way you're protecting yourself as a parliamentarian judge against any accusations later by telling us the kids dawdled with their recesses. They weren't prepared to speak when a new item of legislation came up. Like, document all of these things so we're aware of them. So if a coach invariably will come and complain to us, we can say, well, this is what happened in the room and caused the time to go. Now, if it means that the round will run 10 to 15 minutes late, we can allow for that. Lincoln Douglas rounds run late. Oratory rounds run late. We want to keep things on time as much as possible, but if there are extenuating circumstances and if it means giving a few more kids an opportunity to have an equal footing with everyone else, fairness is really important. I think so for so long, this term hard stop and, you know, being very draconian about time was primary in a lot of our minds. But that is a feature that we don't need to emphasize, I think. So, and parliamentarians intervene when necessary, particularly if a student is not being treated fairly and equitably. But again, when in doubt, text us and ask us for guidance on how to handle something if you're not sure. And then finally, sensitive topics. This just bears bringing up that students always have the prerogative to not speak on a particular item that they're uncomfortable with. So don't hold it against them if all other 17 students in the room speak on something and they choose not to. You don't know why they chose not to speak. There's no requirement that everybody speak on the same thing. I mean, if you judge a round of extemporaneous speaking, all of the students in that round have a different topic. And so sometimes when debate gets rehashy, especially now that we're back to 18 students in a room in person, as opposed to the 12 or so we had when we were virtual, it's not as easy in terms of the number of fresh arguments and even refutations and crystallizing or summarizing the round as you get deeper into the debate is possible. So sometimes it's better for kids. I tell the kids, you're taught so much through your lives to never quit. And sometimes the best lesson you can learn is when to stop and not do something, when not to talk. And that shows a great deal of maturity and pragmatism on the part of the student. But it also protects the students who are uncomfortable with a topic that where the content may trigger some kind of emotional response. So just keep that in mind. Safe spaces are really important, and we want everyone to feel like they belong in this event. So that is the presentation. Let me stop sharing, and I will open the floor for questions. I will also note while I'm waiting for questions. Oh, great question, Alexander. So what I was about to say, so you and I are on the same wavelength, is we will be in Whitehall on campus. It is a lovely building. It's been perfectly suited to congressional debate when we were last there in person. So those of you who've been to the Barkley Forum for High Schools before will remember this building as the traditional Congress building. The tab room or headquarters will be in the same place that it's been in the past, I believe, right, Lydia? Yep. So that's Whitehall 200, if memory serves. And then there are rooms on the 100 level, which are actually downstairs from the main level. The main level of the building is really the 200 rooms. I am already aware of at least one judge who happens to be on this call, who has requested for various reasons to just be on the main level throughout. So we will be honoring that and making sure that you're okay with that. If you haven't already noted that in your tab room notes, and sometimes a coach has to go in if you've been hired by a coach to put in notes for you, please do that. We'd rather you be proactive and let us know if you have particular needs. Even something like, just letting us know that you may have blood sugar issues and may need to take breaks. We can help you build in a little extra time. I'll even bring you a snack out of my own personal snack bag, if you're feeling lightheaded or need some assistance. Like that's what we're here to do, and we want to make sure we're meeting your needs. When will you receive room assignments? So we wait till everyone's at the tournament and we know everybody's accounted for, and then we will blast those out, I believe at 4:15 p.m. Friday, just ahead of the first round Friday. And then we will try and do that for the prelim rounds. We'll do it about 45 minutes to an hour before the subsequent round. For elim rounds, we will just do it as soon as we possibly can. And if you don't receive a blast, we'll ask you to be in proximity to the building on standby so that we can push your ballot and get you situated in that room to replace somebody if they aren't able to come. And I mean, we've had people go to the ER and all manner of things. So standby judges can and do get used all the time, and we really appreciate it. The good news is we don't have any physical folders or materials to hand you this year. So everything is handled virtually through Tabroom, and the links that I shared earlier, and we'll be emailing those out to everyone as well. So you don't have to deal with going back and forth with materials and folders and those kinds of things. I believe, Lydia, we do have flags, gavels, a few other supplies. We have the seating chart for the PO, and our team will be taking those directly to the room so that the parliamentarians won't have to worry about those. Are you judging every round? We try and balance and distribute the rounds as evenly as possible, but we don't have quite enough judges to give everybody a round off. And the parliamentarian judges, those are those lead judges who are a little bit more experienced with congressional debate. They go and they sit in the front of the room for all three of the prelim rounds. And so they can, once you are assigned a parliamentarian, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll be there for the other two prelim rounds. The other scorer judges are the ones we try and rotate in prelims. And then when we get to semifinals, we mix everybody up. But we really do try and balance things as much as possible. Where can we park? It's P something ramp, right, Lydia?
Yes, you can park in Peavine. If you reference the tournament invitation on Tabroom, it'll give you information and also a map that will help you locate the parking deck in relationship to the building. So definitely, I encourage you to check that, and I'll also will have information about what times parking is free on campus and where it is free.
Awesome. Yeah, it's not a bad walk, and the weather looks like it might be rainy, so pack an umbrella. But I'm here in Minneapolis right now, so I'm just excited to come somewhere where it's not snowing and icy. So these are good questions. Keep them coming. Well, if there aren't any further questions, Lydia, do you have any other wise, sage advice to share with our judging crew here?
No, just stay in communication with the tab room. If you have any questions or concerns, there will always be someone there in Whitehall 200. So you can either text or come to the door and someone will be there to help you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, safe travels to everyone, whether you're coming across the great city of Atlanta or coming across the country to the Barkley Forum for High Schools. Don't forget to tune in to the opening ceremony video online. That's when is that, Lydia? I'm putting you on the spot, but I just thought of it now.
It will be available Friday morning. All the links are on the tab room invitation. So definitely revisit it for the schedule. Reminder for your schools to check in on Friday morning. All of those pieces of information you can find there.
Yeah. And if you've never been to the Barkley Forum for High Schools before, the opening ceremony is just such a magnificent experience. It's just great as a coach, colleague, as a student, to just hear about some of the amazing accomplishments of our peers in the community. They give a social justice award to a student. They honor longtime coaches and other people who give service to our community. They honor Communicator of the Year, who often gives some of the most insightful, powerful speeches I've heard. I just had a memory pop up on my Facebook that it was Acting Attorney General Sally Yates a couple years ago, or Deputy Attorney General, and she was just amazing. She lives in Atlanta, and it was easy for her to come and talk to the kids. So I can't wait to see what's in store this Friday, and I look forward to seeing all of you in person, finally.
All right. Thank you all so much, and we hope you have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam. Good to see you.